President Cyril Ramaphosa declaring a national state of disaster to respond to the electricity crisis in the country. He says the state of disaster will enable government to provide practical measures that are needed to support businesses. The country is currently facing gruelling, rolling blackouts. Ramaphosa also announced that he will be appointing a minister of electricity in the presidency. He says this is to deal effectively and urgently with the power challenges that are facing the country. Let's bring in now via Zoom energy expert, Professor Sampson Mamphweli, head of the Department of Science and Innovation's Energy Secretariat at the South African National Energy Development Institute, to talk more about this. A very good morning to you, Prof, and thanks for making the time to join us.
Good morning to you and the viewers.
Prof, will the declaring of South Africa's rolling blackouts as a national state of disaster help fix the energy crisis?
Yes, this is something that some of us have been calling for. And to put it into context, really, when you listen to Eskom during load shedding, when they announce various stages of load shedding, in most cases, they will be telling the nation that there's a delay in the return to service of some of the units that were taken down for maintenance and things like that. And that can be directly linked to the delay in the procurement of some of the parts that the Eskom needs because of the lengthy procurement process. So the declaration of the state of disaster will allow Eskom to source those parts much quickly. There are also issues around the skills that are in shortage. So once the state of disaster has been declared, then Eskom will be able to source some of those skills from the National System of Innovation, Universities and Science Councils, and also from elsewhere with the original equipment manufacturers much quicker than they could do now under the current, following the current Eskom procurement process. So those are some of the bottlenecks that will be removed by declaring the national state of disaster to ensure that things move a bit faster than they are doing at the moment.
And that move to appoint a Minister of Electricity who will focus full-time and work with the Eskom board and management on ending load shedding and ensuring that the energy action plan, which you're part of, Prof, is implemented without delay. Your reaction to this announcement?
It's a welcome announcement also, because that then creates what the president referred to as the one-stop shop, which basically means that instead of us going through the Minister of Public Enterprises, Minister of Energy, and all that, we have one minister who is responsible for handling the entire energy crisis. That minister can also interface and work very closely with the Minister of Public Enterprises and the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy. So for me, it's the creation of that harmonization of and one-stop shop kind of a thing that will assist the government and Eskom going forward.
It gets a bit confusing, though, just in terms of governance, Prof. The fact that this minister will still have to interact with public enterprises, where does the buck stop with them? Is it the presidency, or is it his counterpart or their counterpart, the Minister of Public Enterprises?
The buck stops with the president, obviously. So the various ministers will be in the same cabinet, all reporting to the president. The Minister of Electricity will have to basically consult with, work very closely with Eskom and other stakeholders, and as well as the two other ministers in trying to resolve the situation. Because this particular minister will be responsible for electricity issues and managing the energy crisis as it is, that minister will have the final say before the president in terms of what happens within the energy crisis and what happens in the electricity sector. So he will have that authority, and it won't create any kind of governance problems, in my view.
Let's talk about the Energy Action Plan, Prof. There was a lot of excitement when it was announced, and since then we've seen an even further increase of electricity blackouts. what improvements have come out of these interactions, and how can the electricity minister pick up on the work you've already done to move forward and create a better energy creation and generation in South Africa?
So after the president announced the plan in July, then they went on to create 8 work streams, each work stream focusing on a particular issue. There's a work stream, for instance, that's focusing on new generation capacity. What will be the impact of that? What kind of generation capacity do we need? There's a work stream that's focusing on fixing the current ESCOM fleet. That work stream has done what we call root cause analysis, and they've identified 7 power stations that are problematic. And in those power stations, they've got power station level plans that they've developed together with ESCOM. So those plans are some of the plans that will be implemented when National Treasury finally releases the funds under this the national state of disaster that has been declared. There are other work streams like the work stream 7 that I'm part of, which is dealing with the data analytics, where the various work streams propose other things, other measures, and then they come to us, and then we run computer models, and then we can advise those work streams and the presidency in terms of the feasibility of the various proposals. You've heard the president yesterday talking, for instance, about small-scale embedded generation, support of households through some loans and things like that. Those are some of the things that are being worked into, the details of which are being worked in by, there's another work stream that is working specifically with small-scale embedded generation and what we call demand response. So that's some of the information that's coming on board to say this is what we can do as a country to try and deal with this particular problem. The challenge has been always the communication. The public does not really know the nitty-gritties or the details of what's happening in the background. All they see is load shedding escalating to higher stages, while there's quite a lot of work that is being done in the background.
But I think the population would like to know, and I'm particularly interested in the work stream that you talk about, new generation capacity. Are you able to take us along here just in terms of what's happening here, what's the latest? Are we able to look at a recent or close future of not seeing load shedding?
Yes, we are able to look at a close future, but that close future could be, we were projecting about 18 to 24 months. The directive from the president was much harder than that. When we look at the new generation capacity, for instance, new projects coming online, we're expecting them to be from bid window 5 and bid window 6 to come online in about 24 months time, 18 to 24 months time. But that is the long-term kind of a solution. If you look at the president's plan, the energy plan, it has got the short-term, the mid-term, and the long-term. And on the short-term side, we're looking at demand response and things such as your small-scale embedded generation, where people with rooftop solar PV will be able to feed into the grid and get some incentives, and they'll be also able to be assisted, like what the president has said. But in the longer term, we're looking at bringing in new generation capacity. And one of the things that one of the work streams is looking at, for instance, is the use of gas, to say, how do we bring in gas as an intermediate to try and assist us in the medium in the short term to medium term.
Prof, we have to wrap it quickly. I just want to ask you, on behalf of South Africans, when can we expect to see a turnaround?
We can expect to see a turnaround anytime between 12 months and 24 months. I can confidently say that if everything comes to play and everything works quite well according to the president's plan and all the other plans, load shedding should be the thing of the past in the next 30 months or so. But I must warn that we are still going to go through a rough ride for the next 12 months or so.
Well, there you have it, South Africans. Don't have any expectations. Still going to have a rough ride before things get better. There was energy expert Professor Sampson Mamphweli, the head of the Department of Science and Innovation's Energy Secretariat at SANEDI.